Hello and welcome to the Mortal Kombat Minute, the podcast where we analyze, criticize, and memorialize the 1995 film Mortal Kombat one hard-up minute at a time. I'm Phil Casper from philcasper.net.
I'm Spanish from GameFixShow.com.
And we are on minute number 35. This minute starts with Shang Tsung finishing his sentence to Goro about not tolerating failure. And it ends with Liu Kang entering an eerie blue winding cave system.
Where'd that blue light come from? Well, the last minute we left you with Shang Tsung pretty much telling Goro that the Emperor will not tolerate failure because he explained that there are already 9 wins and the next win will give them what they want. Pretty much. More or less. Let's just leave it at that. And then we pick up the next half of what Shang Tsung says, and I will throw that to you. How about that?
And Shang Tsung says, "And neither will I."
Of course not.
That's just it. Yep. And and then of course Goro taking this as a point of pride because he's the undefeated champion of Mortal Kombat coming up to this. He's raising all his fists in the air saying, "I will not fail."
Yes, or I do not fail.
Oh, I do not fail. Sorry. Man. Okay. And I had it written down too.
How did you get that wrong? No, you're fine. But it's actually kind of cool. I do like this scene because you really get a good sense of what Goro looks like. I mean, like from his, you know what I mean? Like it's actually a good shot of Goro, and that it's probably one of the best shots of Goro that we get throughout the whole movie. Is that one right there?
Yeah, like the entire upper torso and everything. Yeah, I totally agree. Did we mention this in a previous minute that
what's that?
His bottom 2 arms are actually like arms of the puppeteer?
Oh yeah, we said because the top half is animatronic, the bottom half is
okay. Right. Just wanted to double check and make sure.
Actually, they got a 4-armed man.
Yeah,
that would be awesome, but no, that's not.
But from there we then not pan over, but we do a quick jump over to our combatants who have been still eavesdropping up to this point, and Johnny being the sensible one saying, "You know what? Let's go ahead and get out of here."
I think he's heard enough. Is really what is kind of like what he's in. But as they leave, they kind of make a sound when they leave, more like a shuffle sound. I think that's what I hear.
I heard like also some rocks falling, and like maybe somebody jumbled some rocks somewhere, loosened them, and they fell down.
Yeah, but then we get a quick shot of Shang Tsung like turning his head like he heard something, and same with Goro. But who says something is Kano, and he goes, "What is it?"
And I like this shot of Shang Tsung and Kano because it shows that like Shang Tsung is just high and alert, and it's focused on Shang Tsung initially with Kano blurred in the background, and then the focus changes to have Kano in focus and Shang Tsung blurred in the foreground. And then
they do a lot of that. If you notice that, because the first time I mentioned it is when they were on the boat, and they showed what Liu Kang, and then they focused in on Sonya. It was like it was kind of like So they've done this before. This trick has actually happened in the movie already, which is that's why we're here. We point these things out.
Oh yeah, but also I do want to point out that Kano just kind of looks a little pathetic. Like, and just lost and dumb. He's the only one that didn't hear this sound, really. Like in case you notice, like Goro is also on high alert. Like, oh, what's that? And Kano's just slumped over in his chair and like, what's going on? What'd you hear? And actually, before we move on from this shot, I wanted to put in one final comment regarding Kano and the food. That we see here. This actually inspired me from a comment that we got from one of our listeners, Tim, on our Facebook page. He was commenting a few minutes ago when we were talking about Kano feasting. He says, "The spread of the food on the table during this scene is an interesting note. It's decadent to the point it becomes obscene and disgusting. It's a king's feast being eaten by a man with one of the elegance or poise we would typically associate or expect, with none of the elegance or poise we would typically associate or expect from such a station. It's almost as if the feast is being used to say that Kano is a man who fancies himself a king, but in all actuality is little more than just a common thug in this incarnation.
Yes.
And
well put.
Indeed. And that's where I don't necessarily like this version of Kano too much. He seems too dumb, too conniving, I guess.
Well, I think in my eyes, I feel like he's kind of out of his comfort zone, because back at home, as he explains to Goro, he's kind of a big deal. He's kind of a boss himself, but like here he's talking to a sorcerer, B, a half dragon man, half man, half dragon. I think he's just a little out of his element. So
a little intimidated.
A little intimidated. He's just not used to this. So in his defense, I don't think he needs one, but in his defense, I think that's kind of where he's just out of his comfort zone.
Okay. I'll allow that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. If we saw more of Kano in future story, then maybe I might change my perspective a little bit. He might get a little bit more comfortable, I guess. But after seeing him in later storylines in the actual Mortal Kombat games, I guess that's the standard that I've been holding him to.
Well, yeah, because he's comfortable where he's at. So I don't know. Yeah, who knows? And at that point, he knows of Shang Tsung and Goro pretty well. So maybe he is more comfortable with them at that point, because this is the first time they've really have met. Well, he's met the sorcerer before, but not Goro.
Goro.
Yeah. That's got to be anybody that walks into a room that you see this guy with 4 arms. It's got to be a little intimidating.
Oh yeah, I completely agree.
Well, as Kano then says, what is it? Then Shang Tsung then says, "We are not alone," and I love it because then he kind of signals the guard to go check it out, pretty much.
Yep, with 2 fingers, pointing off to the side there, like Axum Jack, or almost.
Yeah, and then the guard goes immediately. He goes and checks it out. So you could tell the power that Shang Tsung wields, no matter what it is. Although I do love. That it wasn't cut between him signaling and the guard going. It's actually the camera moving to the left.
Yeah, it's a quick pan.
Quick pan, and I like that. I think that's good because you can actually see that they're in the same room together, and it's not just it doesn't look like they're separate. Does that make any sense? I think that's
and I prefer like this type of shot as opposed to just a quick jump cut or something.
Right.
To the guard running off. For some reason it brings more urgency to the situation or how alert
I think you're right,
the situation is. But from that pan we do go into a jump cut into a different scene entirely. We have this shot of a wall, it looks like, with some intricate markings on it. I couldn't really find any significance to what these markings are. But they just look interesting. So and I can throw up a screenshot or something later on our video, but then the shot starts to pan down and we then come up to an entranceway that our combatants are running down.
Right.
And then
go
ahead.
But you know what? We actually get the same pan as we did 10 seconds before that. So, which is kind of cool because they used it again, really quickly.
Yeah.
And it showed the 3 combatants. I like to call them heroes, by the way.
Okay.
You call them combatants, but it's okay.
Combatants with a K.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Oh,
yeah,
of course. But we get the shot of all 3 of them, and the first thing you hear is Johnny Cage, and he says, "Wait a second, I don't remember this." So really, where they came back from, it changed. Whatever happened. I mean, this is kind of a fun house at this point. Why? Having fun?
Did it actually change, or did they just go down a different path? I'm wondering.
A great question. I don't know, but I would like to push the theory that it changed. How's that?
Okay, because this is a magical island in between realms. This is a sorcerer's island, so maybe he does have some enchantments up. I guess he could have a weird winding and transforming hallway thing.
I'm glad you said that because I don't believe it was Shang Tsung that changed it.
Ooh, who do you think changed it if they did?
Well, well, when they did the pan around, and they went 360 degrees around. So you saw that they were in this room that it was like kind of a round room, and you saw this path that happened to be, it looked like blue lights all over the place.
Yeah.
As you said in the beginning of the thing, and then we get a shot of Princess Kitana at the end. So I'm thinking she's leading them.
Okay. Okay.
That's what I'm getting out of it. I could see what you're saying, and it totally could be Shang Tsung, and he changed it just to kind of like mess with them. But I really think that it is Princess Kitana that did it.
I like that theory. Well, you mentioned that we do a full 360 shot. Mm-hmm. Did you know, like, whenever I first saw this on VHS years ago, not just one other door. I counted 4 entrances.
Yeah.
In this room. So there's one like before the blue hallway that I think is a pathway going down. Then we have the blue hallway, which is, going straight ahead. Then the third one is immediately to the left of the blue hallway, which has a stone stairway going up. And then, of course, the fourth entrance to this room is the one that our heroes came through at the very beginning of the scene.
Yeah. That's I'm glad you noticed that. I did notice that as well.
It's just a very quick shot, though. I only thought there was one other entrance. I'm like, what? Yeah. Where else are they going to go?
If you're watching in real time, yeah. But, we're stopping it every couple of seconds. So.
Oh, yeah. I freeze the frames for sure.
But, of course, after they do the panorama, then Liu Kang says, look, that has to be Princess Kitana. I think she's trying to help us because at this point he's kind of smitten, right? Because she's a good-looking lady. Let's just go with that, But of course, then Johnny Cage, being the smart ass as he is, says, "I think you're just hard up on a date," which is a great line, and it totally fits his character.
Oh, for sure.
And then of course Liu Kang, being the positive one, saying, "Come on, she's trying to lead us out." And then I'll let you do this one because it's another great Johnny Cage line.
Johnny Cage says, "Oh, would you forget about her? She's 10,000 years old." Like, I love that.
like seriously, she's 10,000 years old. And of course Liu Kang, so what?
Age is just a number, right?
Yeah, and he just goes, and then the end of the scene, you see Liu Kang running down this hallway with a blue light, and Johnny Cage. What's that?
Well, not only blue light, but also fog. It's a nice fog, Larry the fog machine guy is keeping his job going.
Guy's back. Yep. Yeah. He's come back with a vengeance, obviously. Yep. But then Liu Kang or Johnny Cage, you hear in the background, Lou.
Yeah, like he's doing loud whispers.
Yeah, Lou, like that. Yeah. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the minute.
So some things I do want to note, and that I noticed while watching this minute repeatedly, like we do on this podcast. When we see a close-up shot of Princess Kitana with
thank you,
that torch, like I thought it was just a normal torch whenever just watching it in full. No, it's a torch that's made out of a skull. So she's holding a skull with a flame in it, which is pretty brutal, interesting and brutal. And also, like if you listen closely, you can hear those her signature flutes off in the distance. Yeah, and actually, I did a little bit of research on what that instrument was. I referred to it. I thought it was like a panpipe or something earlier. That's not really the case. Actually, what the instrument I believe is called is a shakuhachi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a bamboo flute.
Of course.
It's an ancient Chinese or even Japanese in origin bamboo flute.
Ancient Chinese secret.
Yeah, exactly. And then you also hear some didgeridoos. Some didgeridoo undertones in the background as well.
Yeah, of course. That kind of gives it sets the tone. It sets the tone of like where they're going or where she's leading them.
Right.
Once we get to the next minute, it's kind of odd.
Yeah, and that's a good tease for the next minute. That's great, because that's really all I have left for this minute.
Me too.
Well, that brings us to the end. Once again, thanks as always for sticking with us. And I'm Phil.
I'm Spanish.
We'll see you next time on the Mortal Kombat Minute.